What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Michael, I feel like we went to church and I loved it. It was so great to get to the understanding and the discussion around marketing and being very targeted and specific with your segments and how it truly applies across every industry. But when you do it right, it's special.
It is. And William Vanderbloemen.
No, well done.
Vanderbloemen. I like that name.
Vanda. I think you have to go with a little bit of an accent on it.
Vanderbloemen.
Yes.
I guess we're German, not Netherlands.
Oh,
but
you're right.
Vanda. I don't know. I'm not going to try to do accents.
He said
but anyway,
Vanderbloemen, so I'm going to take that.
I like Vanderbloemen, which is like flower. Bloemen.
Yes.
Is flower in Netherlands. Anyway, it was a great talk with him. Unexpected. I wasn't quite sure where we were going with everything and not related, but then it always relates back to the same core elements. We talked about focus. We talked about the promise, the connection, the harmony, and his world and how the practices of good marketing and good branding work across any industry if you're doing it right. And he's definitely doing it right.
Yep. You do the right things the right way, you're going to get the right result. William, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks, Jaci. It's a joy to be with you.
It's a pleasure for us as well. I think we should get the most difficult question out of the way first. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like the exact proper pronunciation of your last name.
This is such a good question. And the answer is I'll give you the Americanized exact pronunciation of the name. And it's like flowers, Vanderbloemen. Just blooming like flowers. I think if you, I've been to the Netherlands several times. That's the homeland, and nearly every flower shop is called Bloemen, and it's spelled the same way. I mean, like, very short story. My mother's dad used to take his daughters and son-in-laws on trips to Europe, and would ask somebody to plan each city. And Dad got the Amsterdam. Because it's like, it's the homeland or whatever. And this was years ago when you're using Fodors for travel, not apps, right? and so he called this restaurant and said, I'd like a table for 8 in the name of Beach, my granddad's name. And they said, sorry, sir, this is like a bistro, small tables. We don't do that. And he said, okay, fine. 2 tables, but for one in the name of Beach, one in the name of Vanderbloemen. And they said, yes, sir, that's fine. Can you spell that? And he said, sure, V-A-N-D. They said, no. Spell beach.
That is awesome. I love it.
It's like the super old Cheers song, a place where everybody knows your name.
Right. So Vanderbloemen, that's easy. But beach, we're not familiar with that.
We went to Sicily a few years ago with our kids, and we found out quickly that Russo was like Smith over there. It's on every building. It's a very common name. It's just everywhere. And it was like, okay, well, everybody's Russo there. So it was just interesting to kind of see how that all works out.
Well, a lot of great wine from there is Russo.
Mm-hmm. Red.
Yeah.
Red. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you, William. Why are you here today? What's your background? What are you up to?
I'm here today because God is gracious no matter how bad I've been in my life.
Nice. Good start.
I don't deserve to be here, but I grew up in North Carolina in a little tiny town, kind of like, if you're old enough to remember the movie Deliverance, kind of there. And
is that really what the visual you want people to have for you? Because I feel like there's some others.
And actually, for those old enough to know it, it crystallizes things very quickly. It saves a lot of time. So
now I just hear banjo in my head.
Well, when the babies are born and they take the APGAR test, like the sight sounds. APGAR in Western North Carolina, where I'm from, the perfect score is 2, 10, 10. That's 2, 10, and 10. 2 eyes, 10 fingers, 10 toes. So that's kind of where I'm from, and love it. Great people, wouldn't trade it for the world. But it was a smaller place, and I was, pretty chronically affected by trying to be entrepreneurial and bust out and that sort of thing. And I mean, I could tell lots of stories, but from a very young age, I don't know. I've got a disorder where I wanted to buy paper routes from other paper boys and then redistribute and sell them off. I story after story of just trying to start things and see if you could make some headway and as a byproduct, some money. From there, went to college, did an amazing job of a prodigal journey. I have learned everything my daughters better not bring home. So I've got the Cliff Notes. I've lived it, and then had a pretty big turnaround in life, and that was a spiritual nature, and decided, I want to help other people have this same turnaround. So I went into pastoral ministry in the Presbyterian Church, and I can say it now because hindsight's 2020. But I think what I wanted to do, the mission was, let's overpopulate heaven. let's get too many people familiar with this, and it was basically an entrepreneur's vision, right? But that doesn't sit super well with traditional churches. They've been there a long time, and I'm this swashbuckling, try stupid things, and break eggs to make an omelet, all those sort of entrepreneurial things that I'm sure some of you listeners, if you're a marketer, you know it. If you're a business owner, you know it. And it did some good, and I had some really patient people in my churches that put up with me. But long story short, went through a divorce, was a single dad with 4 kids. Would not recommend either of those things, but went into the corporate world to try and put life back together. While I was at a very large oil and gas company, in a very brief stay there, very kind people hired me. The CEO said, I've been here 9 years. We're a Fortune 200 company. That's long enough. It's time to find my successor. Well, this is interesting. And I was on the HR team at the time. I was kind of like the third string water boy for the team. So it wasn't like a pivotal role or anything, but I got to watch as they handled this, find the new CEO, and they hired this thing called a search firm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd never heard of this. And in the church is horrible at looking for new leaders. I was at the senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church in Houston. It's where Sam Houston went to church. It's like brass ring of a job. If there is, that's probably a bad way to say that about church. But anyway, they took 3 years to find me. I was there 6 years. They took 3 years to find the next guy. 12 years, 6 looking, 6 with. This oil and gas company hires this thing called a search firm, and 90 days later, they have their new CEO. And I was like, wow. I think I was kind of disturbed by it. I was like, why? This thing that I put all this education and learning into really stinks at leadership transition. I don't know a company alive that could go 3 years without a CEO, and then 6, and then 3. So I came home, and Adrian and I had just gotten married. We just blended our families. We had 6 kids, house we could barely afford. And I said, babe, I think I'm supposed to quit my job and start something new for churches. She looked at me. She's so tired of me telling the story, but it's true. But she looked at me and she said, something new for churches. Oh, that's because churches love new ideas, right? Said no one ever. So, and Jackie, it was the fall of 2008. That was just a super brilliant time to quit your job, wasn't it?
Right.
And,
let's put aside the financial collapse that's happening around us, banking system imploding, and start something new.
With no debt, no investors, and let's just do it on a card table at our house. And I don't know what we were thinking. It was so stupid, but fortune smiled, and here we are. Almost 17 years later now, and we've had the pleasure of working all over the world. And what started with a question, could we help churches find their pastor faster and better? That's our backbone. That's where my training is. It's what I feel like I know how to do. I know how to speak that language. For you guys in Louisiana, so you'll understand the Chick-fil-A's of the world. Like, how do you help those people find talent that are congruent, not in a discriminatory way, but congruent with their core values in a way that they can all be pulling in the same direction? So, long-winded answer from a recovering preacher. Sorry.
No, it was a great answer. And I love accidental entrepreneur stories. It's one of my favorites. And I think about your timing and how it kind of in some ways reflects the timing we had in starting this agency. So it's, nearing 2000, the end of 2000. Michael and I had gotten married in 98. We had a baby 10 months later in 99. He has now just turned 1, and we are 6 months pregnant with the second one. And that seemed like a great time to leave the job. I had the bigger job. Michael had just gotten promoted and had taken over the creative team at a smaller agency. I was working for more of a multi-location corporation. And so I had the benefits. I had the good health insurance policy. Yeah, I'm just going to walk away from that now, 8 months pregnant, and start an agency. But I think that you become successful at those things because you don't have a choice.
Well, I think that's right. What is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Absolutely.
You just you get down in the dirt, and if you don't get it done, you don't go to the grocery store. It's a little different.
Right. And then, so we opened our doors February 1st of 2001, and we all know what happened in September of that year.
Wow.
We saw clients, go out of business, which meant
Wow.
I thought we were going to go out of business. And, now we've just had the second one. So it makes you have a lot of hustle when
Yeah.
that's all you got.
Yeah. You find out who you are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I was excited about you agreeing to do the podcast, a plethora of reasons, having met through 21 Hats, having spent some time together in Fort Worth. But the fact that you practice what we preach all the time, which is being very narrow and targeted and specific. You're not just a search firm, because
Right.
those are a dime a dozen. I can go online for that. I can talk to this company or that company for that. But you have carved out a very unique, specific niche for yourself within the search firm space. And to me, you're living that adage of, you'll find your riches in the niches. You're doing that. And so I love that you identified a specific problem and provided a specific solution. So walk us through now. You're up, you're running, and you're going out to different churches and saying, you should let me help you with this. And as you said, they're so open to change.
Yes, they are. You book Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, and
One of my
if you
favorite books.
listeners,
Yeah.
if you listeners don't know it, then go get it. But Malcolm, I've told him if we make it, long term, 20, 30, 40 more years, and he wants to do an appendix, we can be a case study, because I can't claim any credit for why we took off. We happened to launch the same month Twitter did.
Oh, wow.
And in a weird way, marketers appreciate this, in a weird way, especially in the early days with Twitter, now X, pastors actually carried more social traction than CEOs. It was a weird deal. It's like, particularly pastors of big churches who can't talk to all their people. Well, this gave them an immediate way to say, hey, get in my life. So social media was there. We also started kind of right when, I don't know the right term, Jackie, correct me, but like email 2.0. We
Sure.
started targeted email and inbound marketing and all this. These were not, I don't remember all this from my notes in seminary at Princeton. Really, it didn't exist. So we kind of learned on the fly. I hired a young woman, long story with a fabulous story if we had more time, who in her last interview, I said, so Holly, what would you do if you came to work for us? She was just going to help with business development. We had 3 employees. She said, I'd spend 50% of my time learning our market and 50% of my time trying to talk you into this. And she pulled out a proposal for us to try this new company called HubSpot. Brand new deal. So we jumped on early, and listen to this, leaders. This is amazing customer service from HubSpot to us. So I went to Boston to a thing, one of these Inc. Like, you pay to get in, and you get around great leaders and think tank, and the last speaker of the day was Brian Howland, the co-founder at HubSpot. I had to get back. I was coaching a soccer team, and it's like last flight out. So I figured out who he was, and I went up and talked to him before. And I said, Brian, we're 6 months in with HubSpot. I got a jet. Sorry. But I just wanted to thank you for starting your company. We're still trying to figure out how to use it, but I'm really thinking this is going to be something. And here's what he said to me. Listen to the CEOs. This is so good. He said, you should hire me as your intern. And I said, well, that's awfully nice of you. But first of all, we don't have an internship program. Secondly, I can afford you. And thanks so much. And he said, no, 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 no. I'm serious. And he gave me his card and he said, my assistant's email's on here. If you will put your whole leadership team together for 3 hours, I'll get on a call with you. If you'll teach me your business, I'll teach you how to use HubSpot for it.
Wow.
Now, he can't do that for everyone, but guess what? I've told that story probably 500 times, which is free marketing for them. Like it just creates a sense that when I was pastor of a big church, I was worried about not going to see everybody in the hospital. You can't do it. And the chair of the board said to me, William, people don't want you to be at every hospital, but we do want to believe that you wish you could be at every hospital bed. And so this like random smattering from Brian Halligan, CEO of this fabulous company, to this little tiny startup, that is fantastic marketing from CEO downward. I don't know if that helps any of you listening, but just think like, how could you dive into whatever your clients need and say, I'll spend 3 hours with you and I'll tell you whatever I know.
Right.
I guarantee. So off, we do a really weird, and I are connected through 21 Hats. Lauren Feldman, who's a business genius and has written everywhere on the planet, got taken with me for one reason. We had lunch, and Lauren's very careful, not to. He withholds judgment, right? He doesn't jump in with anybody too fast, and he doesn't block anybody out. But I figure this is a long start of a long get to know Lauren. And over lunch, he said, "What are you doing about content if you're using HubSpot?" And I said, well, it may be a dumb idea, but we have a content quota. Everyone in our firm produces a certain amount of content every year. And he said, what? And so like everyone was blogging. And if you can't write, then you're going to do an infographic. And if you can't do that, you're going to help with a podcast. You're going to we got to have content out there because there is an enormous learning gap between what you learn in seminary and what you actually need to know to build and run and keep a great team. So we just started filling that gap with HR 101. And I wish I could say I was clairvoyant enough to know it worked, but we were in the right place at the right time when there wasn't a lot of that out there. And we put a ton of content out that was helpful. And it led to a business where we really only started outbound sales calls about 2 years ago.
Wow. So the first 10, 15 years, it just came to you
All
because
inbound.
you were doing all the things you're supposed to do.
All inbound. Fill out a form, call them, they'd hire us.
Right.
At crazy conversion rates. Crazy conversion. And our content, like we had a expert, air quotes, talked to us a few years later about content. And he's like, I'll forget the numbers, but like the click through at the time, success was 3% click through for an email with a read this article. We were at like 40%.
Wow.
And yeah, and very targeted. I mean, a lot of you listeners would go look at our content. Why would anybody want to read that?
Right.
Well, because it's a niche.
Right.
Right. And we could speak the niche. And this expert said, you need to monetize that content. And I just looked at him and said, well, I may be dumb, but I think I already am.
Right.
He said, I'm not going to go selling content on our blog. I'm going to keep giving it. If you focus on helping people relentlessly, you'll never run out of new business.
That's it right there. If you share your knowledge and serve your community, you don't have to sell. People ask
That's
to
right.
buy.
When Jackie's I've kind of been drug kicking and screaming through this path because I don't believe it as much as she does. But from day one, she's always been, of that mentality. And I think it's hard sometimes because we have competitors. I mean, are we giving away this, giving away that? Basically, we wrote a book a few years ago called He Said, She Said, Branding. And it's basically our business model. It's our branding process is what we do, how we do it. I mean, literally, you can go read it and figure out. Now, you need the talent and the time and the process to implement those things. But we don't hold anything back on there. Jackie doesn't, at least. But she's constantly about pushing things out there. She's like I call her the first time I've said this, but the queen of the long play, because how many times, Jackie, have you had people come in years later that have started the conversation maybe, a year earlier,
All the
or
time.
you've forgotten them even, but there was
I don't
something
forget.
a seed that was planted early on, and they do come back around. And those end up being the best clients for us because they're genuine, they're authentic, they actually believe. They're not looking for a quick fix Band-Aid. They're looking for long-term solutions, and those are the people that we do best for. So by giving that information out there. And one of the things, too, you mentioned, too, early on in our agency, we worked for a big church here in town. They were one of the big mega churches, and they were doing a lot of video content, all these different sermons online and selling them. And they came to us and asked for help. And we did. And one of the things that I remember telling them early on, I'm like, look, you're a church, but you're a business. You need to realize that there's competition out there. There's competition for parishioners, for money, for a dollar, for time, for attention. And until you understand that, until you accept that and start treating yourself like a business and think about your internal culture, think about your staff, think about your promotions, think about your brand, all those things matter. And, you have to kind of stick up for yourself and say, you know what, I am in competition. I have to do these things, kind of like what you're talking about, applying these marketing tools, business tools to your process and everything else that you do. That's how you get to that next level. That's how you succeed, really.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. What's fascinating to me is realizing that we could plug and play any industry. We could swap out any niched, specific, focused, targeted audience segment. The principles and practices and applications don't change. It is still about being a thought leader. It is still about knowing who you serve and how they need to be served. It is still about providing guidance. All of these things are true across all industries.
Yeah. I'm not the marketer, but I'll experience this is what I've experienced, and you can correct me or whatever. But the best country music songs are not about happy things; they're about pain, right? And I think what we got lucky with in hindsight is, I know the pain points of our clients. I have lived those pain points, and we didn't write to their strengths. Like the most popular blog post we wrote way back, like 2010. It was a 4-part series. We put it out every Monday morning, beating the Monday blues. Like pastors quit on Mondays because Sunday is hard. And I mean, I won't bore you with all the details, but like forensically, you can see they're depressed on Mondays. Sure. So we just put it was speaking to their pain. And we didn't know we were doing it. Brian Halligan actually had me, and fast forward a few years, our lead team, about 3 or 4 our marketers, said, you want to come up to HubSpot? We're going to try something. We're doing a little camp for 100 people. You can bring 4, so 25 people, 25 businesses. And me and our lead team are going to walk people through how to build personas. And I didn't even know what he was talking about. And we walked away and realized we've been doing some of this, but now we know Pastor Paul drives this kind of car. Pastor Paul is worried about this part of his finances. Pastor Paul is, and then committee member Carol, well, she's a different cat, right? And staff member Sally is a different cat. And then our anti-persona, sorry for any people planting a church out there, but church planter Chase is never going to buy from us. So just don't even write to him. So it was like scales falling off my eyes to say, oh, there's a science behind this. This isn't just my gut.
Right.
And boy, when you put good marketing science behind knowing a client's pain in the deepest part of the niche, that I think is where we've discovered magic. And maybe we're just weird, but that's our story.
No, you nailed it. And everyone who does it right does it that way. Now, maybe they know it and they're doing it intentionally and specifically because they've read a book or they've hired an expert to guide them, or it's just in their DNA and they're doing it unintentionally. But those are the right steps, and when done the right way, will yield the right results.
In the weirdest way, Jackie, I don't know, maybe we're working with a slow to market sector. The church is not known for innovation. They don't really like new ideas. But like, I had a marketing, air quotes again, expert tell me at Christmas we ought to send, some real fancy thing to the clients and then a little note or whatever. And I think it was going to cost, before shipping, maybe $30 a unit or something like that, and it'll pay off. And we said, well, good idea, but I'm going to change that. So for $5 a unit, we sent them a pack of a travel pack of Tylenol, travel pack of Advil, and a 5-hour energy, because they were getting ready to walk into 50 Christmas Eve services. And by the way, in December, pastors' counseling load triples because every family's falling apart or having to deal with the crazy relative or whatever. And you wouldn't believe the response we got from that cheap little duct taped gift that we sent people because it spoke to their pain. Not, I mean, who needs another scented candle for Christmas?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. And here's what ends up happening. I think a lot of times, like the expert, air quotes, advice that you got, people think they know because they have some sort of a demographic profile, a bunch of exterior things, gender, age, income, geographic location. Yeah, that stuff matters. I mean, it's good to know it. But what you tapped into were the psychographics, the stuff on the inside that you know them well enough to know what their Decembers are going to be like, and tongue in cheek provided a solution that resonated. It's going to work every time when you know your people.
It showed up on Instagram like crazy. I don't know if it was good or bad, but people holding up their 5-hour energy saying thanks, William, or whatever.
Right. No, that's good. When people are tagging you and thanking you, that's real good.
It's really hard though. It's staying that course, and because you may have that success sometimes, and we're people that promote that, and we talk about it a lot. And you find yourself when you're in the trenches though, you have to really stick to your guns. You have to really lean on that and say, you know what? I'm going to stay this course. I'm not going to just go back to tactics and go back to, benefits over something else like price points and selling options and talking about us versus you. Those are things that it's really hard to do. It's so hard to do sometimes, because everybody else is talking about this, or I feel like they need to hear about this, or I need to talk about how affordable we are and this, but what is your product or service actually doing to benefit someone's life? How are you making it easier? How are you benefiting what they're doing? And it's just, I guess what I'm getting at is, it's so easy to pull the ripcord too soon, and pull the parachute before you actually get to see, the ground,
One of the things that I like, and as we're talking through it, and I say like kind of sarcastically, I often hear people say, "Oh, I know my target audience," and I'm like, "Okay, great." And we go on, and then they'll say, "Oh, I don't really like that piece. I don't like the way that looks or the way that sounds," and I'm thinking, "Oh, well, then you don't know your target audience because you are not them." And
That's right.
This is going to resonate with them because we've actually done the research. We've had the conversations. We've gotten to know them and their pain points. And I know these aspirin packets and 5-hour energy drink are going to really resonate with them. They're going to get it. But you think this $30 gift before shipping and handling is really going to resonate because that's what you want to get. That means you've not walked a mile in their shoes.
Oh, wow. That's so good.
You got to get to know them.
Good. Yeah, that is so good. And not judge, just that is who they are and that's what they're dealing with. And I told our sales, we're recording this the week before Christmas, and I told our sales guys yesterday on our weekly sales meeting, I'm like, once the 20th hits, don't call anybody because they don't want to talk to you. They are busy trying to figure out what they're going to do with a pile of camel poop on their stage from a nativity scene. Like that's where they're living right now. They do not want to talk about staffing. So leave them alone, send them a note, tell them you're praying for them, but that's it.
Right. Yeah, just to jump onto that, one of my favorite, when I teach a lot of this through the Edward Lowe Foundation or various business incubators, the SBDC, I teach a lot of these classes. And I have a whole session entitled Don't Spray and Pray. Now, that's a little differently than when you're talking to people about praying, but that's what we're talking about. People think that if I can just put enough messages in enough places, they'll work. And that is a shotgun approach that's going to fail you every time. But when you can get targeted and specific and sniper-like, you're going to win every battle.
But we get confused though because of the whole content movement right now of saturating the planet with mediocrity. There's so much out there right now, and people will tell you again. Experts will say, you got to have 15 different messages on 15 different channels, and you got to put this, and basically you're watering down your message. You're watering down what you're trying to say by trying to have that full exposure, by trying to reach everybody at once. And instead of really honing in on understanding who your audience is and then talking to them directly, it's just, again, it's so easy to not do that, even though the answer is the answer's there. Like there is a truth to all this. But I say that because I find it hard to do too sometimes. It's hard to stick with that when you say, man, we have so many good things to talk about. We have so many people that we can reach. Who's your audience? Well, it's everybody. It's so hard to walk away from that and have the discipline to stick with that path.
Well, I think the challenge, I mean, I got a lot of challenges. I have, if you could see the camera shot behind me, I have a religion and philosophy degree. Most people that graduate with that degree spend their entire career saying, would you like fries with that? That's like the normal career path. So I'm learning on the fly. And here's the challenge I have, Michael. I probably ought to you two to help me figure this out. But like, yes, we're going to stay sniper on the message, but man, the channels have changed and they're exponentially growing. And like, TikTok. What our committee member Carol is not on TikTok. Neither is Pastor Paul. Neither is staff member Sally. However, younger candidates are that we also need. So we've just decided, okay, TikTok is all about young candidates. That's what we're going to do. So we've made the whole TikTok channel about how do you dress for an interview? How do you know whether to work for? Hey, is it time to stay or go? All that sort of thing. So it's a little. I don't know if we're getting off message with that, but we're trying to say, how do we figure out, like, you want a message toward older people, let's put it on Facebook. That kind of new thinking as we've gone to this sort of omni-channel world. And I don't have it figured out at all.
I'm not sure anybody really does. I mean, it's because it's rapidly changing. It's every day. There's something new. There's something, even the algorithms for these individual channels are constantly changing. What works, what doesn't work, and everybody's got advice on how to work. And here's the way you do it. You do this. You post 5 times a day, and you do it this time, and you talk about this, and which is why the TikTok algorithms are. You'll see one person, and I've looked at this. Like, people will have a channel, and they'll have the same song for 30 videos doing the exact same dance, doing different things, and it's over and over and their entire thing. And they have like 60,000 followers or, but it's like, because they have figured out a certain thing. And so the TikTok or the computers or whatever have figured that out. So they switch the algorithms and now it's something different, and when you're trying to game the system, that's never going to be good either. I think it's understanding the channels, understanding who watches them, and understanding how to still communicate with them with good messaging. That's the key. I think that's the truth behind all that. Otherwise you're chasing something that is not authentic. It's not real. And eventually it's just going to wash out.
Well, I feel bad. We're supposed to have a podcast here that's helping you, and I'm asking you to help me. But it's such a challenge. We've even said for our existing customers, clients, and candidates next year, and please stop me right now. It's December. You can say, William, you're crazy. Shut it down and start something new. But we've said this year is the year of the phone, like an actual phone call, because the noise. I went to lunch with Adrian the other day. I was gone just under an hour. I came back to 142 new emails, and I can't keep up with the channels. And an actual phone call goes farther with me now. And I think that's true of our candidates. But please stop me if I'm wrong. It's just so dang noisy, and I don't want to add to it.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that, I am always cautious dipping my toe into a tactical conversation without kind of going through the first few steps. And so for us, tactics is step 4. Step 1 is focus. That's really knowing your target audience, which I think you do. Check. Step 2 is promise. Why should they choose you? You are the only blank that does blank. So you got to know that. So that's about looking at the competitors, seeing how you differentiate to be able to dominate. Step 3 is connection, and that's the message. What are you going to say to them? And how are you going to say it in a way that's different than what they're hearing everywhere else? And then step 4 is, where's that message going? And so we see the cyclical opportunities of different tactics. You'll see a tactic blow up and be great, TikTok, and then everybody's on it and it's oversaturated and nobody cares anymore. So they migrate to the next tactic. I see it with direct mail. There are seasons where direct mail, it just kills. Direct mail, you can't get better returns. It's awesome. And then all of a sudden, it's junk mail. People are throwing it away. What changed? The people, the message, the tactic. And so I think going to phone is brilliant. Doing some tests, seeing how well it works seasonally, knowing you've got the right days of the week and times of the day. Wouldn't do it on Sundays and Mondays, and probably not Fridays, because I know a lot of pastors take that day off since they don't really get a weekend. And so then, doing a test run in different geographies, different days of the week, different times of the day, different scripts, you may be onto something.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I probably ought to hire an agency to help me figure it out.
Well, I'm never one to go around saying that. I think that there are a lot of tools and talented people that agency isn't always the right answer. I find that agencies can be most helpful when everybody's too close to the source and they need some outside perspective again. That's where I think agencies really shine. And then people who don't have the capacity for a fully developed in-house team. And that's hard to do. There's a fine line there. You want a little PR, but do you really need them 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year? You need some great graphic design. You need a talented copywriter. You need somebody who understands web and SEO. And so all of a sudden you've got this team of 10, and there's no one person that has all 10 of those skills. And so that's when you can start to think about, do I need a fractional team so that I can have some people sometimes, but not everybody all the time?
We just hired a new director of marketing this year, and that was a hard search. I mean, like, we're a search firm, and I don't want to be arrogant, but we're not bad.
Right.
And it took us forever. And the biggest takeaway for me was, I don't know how big marketing teams are going to be for a business my size.
Right.
Fractional this, fractional that, part this, part that. For right or wrong, we're doing a lot of our graphic design with the AI Canva can do now. It's a whole different world, and it's good enough.
I'm sorry, William. You're breaking up, William. You're breaking up.
Well, we just lost Michael. Michael's on the floor, passed out. He can't breathe. He is every day convinced that AI is going to take his job, and I keep reminding him that he's safe for now.
No. Here's the new profanity for next year. You ready? Here's the new profane saying. Studies have shown. Like, that is so going to be in the toilet in the next year or two, because everyone's studies have shown, research has shown. Whatever. That's like, I got clients that can read the same Bible passage and read it 15 different ways. You can go find a study to support anything. I think get back off the floor, Michael, because in my world, you want to talk about people that are nervous? AI can write a sermon better than 90% of my clients. Mm-hmm. Like, done. And it's something they got to do every week. It's not going to be AI or humans. It's going to be, where is the human wisdom to say, here's what the AI is saying that's valuable and here's what's not. And that might be a reduced workforce or different, but I really think until AI becomes sentient, the human wisdom factor is what people are going to be valued for. Right. Well, we got all the data, we got all these trends, the research shows who can actually tell us what the truth is. And if you don't believe I'm right, where did you get your news during the presidential cycle? Did it feel real? Because I don't care who you voted for. It was really hard to figure out what's really going on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a brave new world. I mean, and it's funny. I never think about how obviously this is affecting everybody. I never thought about pastors and their sermons. I mean, it's weeding its way into everybody's life in one way or the other, and for the good and the bad. Our humanity, I think, is a little bit at stake, but hopefully we can fight that fight and keep that in there. But yeah, it's a change that you can't put the genie back in the box. So it's a reality that we all have to deal with, and how do we deal with it the best way?
And I, at the risk of going down big rabbit trails, I have told people, if you look at human history, this is the constant struggle. We invent something new that replaces some jobs and creates some new ones. And the people who are willing to embrace it and try and figure out how to make it work excel, and those who don't get replaced. And this one may be different. Maybe we're in the first part of the Terminator and we don't know it. If that's the case, who cares? We're all dead anyway. So whatever, But if it's is my job going to get replaced? No, it's more like, how do I learn to be the person who can read the AI and say, now here's what's real in the middle of that, and provide a Sherpa-like advice for people as they climb this hill.
Thank you. Absolutely. I mean, William showing up with all the bright optimism. It's Terminator and we're all dead anyway. Awesome.
Well, Oh, yeah, why worry about that? Okay.
Right. Right. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's already done.
My mother volunteers at hospice, has for many, many, many years. And she says, I'm just always shocked when a person comes in and says, if something should ever happen to me. And mom's like, it's going to.
Right.
Like,
right.
So get over it. If you get whatever, but how do you come alongside this right now and become the wisdom? I mean, I think the next 10 years is going to make the Renaissance look like a non-event.
Wow.
I would agree with that. And I don't know if it's going to be as beautiful as the Renaissance, but it will be as transformative, definitely.
I mean, I think it's up there with electricity and the internet, sure, combined.
Totally.
And we survived both of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to know, but like just as simple as I often think as a small business owner, like some poor family spent an entire generation building the best business that builds cash registers ever. Well, what are they doing now? Like, that's over. So that's always been the struggle with humans breaking through with technology or industry or even roads is just how do you figure out how do I leverage this and use the human part of me that the AI can't do to provide some value?
Right. That's what I like to say. It's not that AI is going to take people's jobs. AI is going to take the jobs of people who don't know how to use AI. So as long as you know how to use it and you can do your job better with it, you're going to be fine.
I know we're getting kind of close to the end here. I wanted to bring up your book, Be the Unicorn, 12 Data-Driven Habits That Separate the Best Leaders from the Rest. Tell us a little bit about that. How would you...
Yeah. Well, so we had this pandemic thing a few years ago, which locked everybody down, right? Guess what? Churches, schools, nonprofits were not hiring during that. I mean, we were dead. Yes. And we could do a whole podcast about how we dealt with that. But one of the silver linings to that cloud was we had some time to drop back and work on the business rather than in it. And we started asking the question, how can we be better at finding the very top talent? I mean, the people that I don't know if you're listening today, can you think of a time where you've met somebody and within 5 minutes, you're all in on them? Oh, I want to listen to their podcast. Oh, I'll sign up for the newsletter. Oh, I'll buy from them. Oh, I want to ask them out on a date. Oh, I want to hire them. There's a magic thing that happens with some really special people. And in 5 minutes, you're all in. If I could learn to spot that faster, I'd be a better search firm. Right. Well, we went and studied the very best candidates we've ever seen, not all of them. And that's 30,000 face-to-face interviews where we tracked these unicorns that have that 5-minute factor and asked the question, do they have anything in common? And the answer was, yeah, they do. And the answer was also not anything I expected. I thought they would be, my Gen Z kids would say, finance, 6'5", trust fund, blue eyes. They would say that's the profile of a unicorn. Nope, not it.
Right.
It wasn't education. It wasn't race or ethnicity. It wasn't IQ. It wasn't any of the things you would think would make the head cheerleader, quarterback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Rather, it was 12 distinct habits that these unicorns practiced. And interestingly, they're all rooted in how they treated other humans. Now, think back to our, John Connor Terminator moment. If AI is taking over and humans are left, what is the one thing AI can't do? Human to human relationships.
Right.
And we started to realize these habits, traits can't be learned. Traits, I'm 6'5". I can't learn that. Habits can be learned. These habits are focused on, well, I call them, you say B2B in business, I call them H to H, like human to human skills. Mm-hmm. And they mark the very best performers. And I thought, oh my gosh, as we're headed into an age where it's like, I can't do accounting as fast as AI. I can't do marketing as fast. I can't do graphics as fast as Canva with AI. You can treat humans very intentionally and well, and that will not be replaced.
Right.
So we made, instead of just using it for ourselves, we made it a book. These unicorns, they're 12 habits. We called it Be the Unicorn, the 12 data-driven habits that separate the best leaders from the rest. And it applies across industry. I've been amazed how many high schools have actually bought it for their seniors. So we kind of hit a nerve and didn't even realize it.
That is awesome. We're going to add a link in the show notes so that people can go buy it.
Yeah, I think it would help marketers.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, even down to just the very first of the 12 habits is the fast. Unicorns are relentless about getting back to people with intentionality. And the rest of us are horrible at getting back to people. The time from a HubSpot lead coming in to response, the average is like 42 hours, which gives you less than 1% chance of a sales call. If you get back to people within 1 minute of a qualified lead coming in with an intentional response, not a chat bot, not an intention, 1 minute, you have a 98% chance of a sales call. It's that simple. Just modify your habits and you will not be replaced and you will stand out in the crowd. So I'll get off the soapbox. Sorry.
No, I'm here for it. I think that's awesome. And those are the things people need to be reminded of because that's the stuff AI can't replace. It's the humans.
That's right.
Yeah. William, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for your time and your knowledge and your wisdom and being so willing to share it all with us.
Oh, sure. I'm learning as I go. That religion and philosophy degree.
Well, I haven't heard you say,
you guys
would
have
you
helped
like
me.
You're not saying, would you like fries with that all day? So I think you're in a good spot.
Not yet. Not yet. And that probably will be AI. But
Probably.
thanks for what you're doing and for having me on the podcast. It's a thrill to be with you.
Absolutely. And I think I'll probably see you in Michigan for the next 21 Hats annual
Yes.
gathering. Okay.
Yes, you will.
Good. Looking forward to it.